Welcome! Welcome. My name is Dan. We're gonna keep writing this Doom song. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you like what we do over here. Anyway, so we got this little Doom song over here, and there are a couple of tweaks that I want to do. First of all, I want to tweak, and thank you so much, Radiant Seeker. That's why I pay you the big bucks. And there are there's a thing I want to do on the guitar tone over here. So you kind of hear that the guitars are kind of raspy a little bit. And this has a lot to do with the main part of the guitar tone, which are actually these sort of tone forge Misha Mansour amp simulators. Right? They're very bright, very mid-forward. You can kind of hear really the bite of the guitar in there, and it has a lot of high-end content. Now, the problem with this is that it makes them seem pretty jarring, especially when you compare with like professionally recorded songs. And in my head, I'm sort of referencing both, of course, the amazing work that Mick Gordon does, but also other bands like, I don't know, Architects or stuff like that, that's sort of down-tuned a little bit. There's a little zone in here that I kind of figured out actually contributes a lot to the noise that, or to the raspiness and the sort of mid-forward punch of the guitars. We don't want to lose a lot of it. We just want to sort of tame it a little bit. And I'm going to show you this right now. So there's 2 points, right? There's first of all, this point over here at around 1.2 kilohertz, which is where the sort of genty part of the tone comes from. But since my guitar, the guitar that I use is already kind of overhyped in that area, it's a bit too much. So let me just solo the guitars and I can show you exactly what this does. So let's go with this riff over here. We'll just sort of loop it a little bit and I can show you what's happening. So I'm gonna turn both these tweaks off, and then I'm going to turn them on. So here's, you can tell that it's on and off because you can see it sort of activates. So let's hear this sort of 1.2K. You see, it's a bit more scooped right now, and it sounds a lot better, I would say. Second, there's this 2.7K. Which is really kind of like an octave, I would assume. Yes, maybe. A bit over an octave over, which again, there's a lot of raspiness in there, right? So I'm going to turn this off and then I'm going to turn it on. Right? And I think it cleans up very, very nicely indeed. I think there's something with the tape machines. We might be adding a bit of noise in here. Let's see how we're hitting these tape machines. So it's not hitting that hard actually. It should be pretty fine. So let's hear it with this EQ on and off in the full mix. And you can see maybe on its own it doesn't feel like a big difference, but check this out. This is what we had before, and I'll turn it back on. Right, they feel heavier, they feel beefier because we've scooped out a bit of those high mids, and it's a lot cleaner, I would say. I think there's a bit of another problematic area, and here's how you kind of figure that out. You kind of have to solo, like, you could do it in the mix as well, but I'll solo the guitars out, and basically we need to hear, I'm going to boost this a little bit, and we need to hear, as we sweep in the upper frequency, we need to hear if there's anything that kind of doesn't move, right? The riff has a lot of motion. Actually, there's a lot better place to kind of test this out. It's actually in the B riff over here. Can you move over, please? Yeah, it's in this part here. Oh, damn. Turned it on, I'm sorry. Let's turn it off. Over here. 4, here. Yeah, you hear there's a lot of motion there. So if we find any sort of hissing frequencies or any sort of whistling frequencies that sort of don't move while with the sort of guitar, it's very hard to explain, but that's kind of the feeling that you kind of need to look for while we sweep this. If we find any of that, we need to cut out a little bit of it. Yeah, we took a bit out of that part. Now let's look a little bit higher. Right? This is what we had. This is what we have right now. And let's try to turn it off and on in the mix. Yeah, now it's a lot more sort of connected. There's another little cool trick that we can do to kind of make a bit more space for the bass in the middle part of the song, in the middle part of the frequency spectrum. Right, so we did this quite a bit as well before. No, let me try this again. We do this usually on the master bus, but let's try it a bit on the guitars as well, right? So let's try to clean up the sort of extreme low end right over here. This is we're talking about under 30 hertz, right? This stuff really needs to kind of go away a little bit, right? To kind of not mess up the master bus when we hit it. Right, and you see that I'm trying to sort of preserve the character of the guitars, not change it too much, but also not sort of not have it where it's too much, right? In the whole mix. Another thing, okay, is that we could do some mid-side EQ over here on the low end at the 100 hertz range, right? But we need to switch it to mid-side. In the mids, we're going to just take out like, I don't know, minus 2 dB, and in the sides we're gonna leave it be, right? This makes a bit more room for the bass, and you'll hear it happening. I'll turn it on and off. Let's listen with the bass actually. Yeah, you can kind of hear that without it, it really builds up in the low end, right? Now that we've kind of tweaked that a bit, I want to tweak the overall bass track, right? Because in the overall bass track, and let's just solo the bass track on a cool riff, maybe? Can we do that? Over here. It'd be great if we could make this bass sound a little bit more together, but this is we have to be very, very careful with this because we're messing with our low end as well. And you know that the low end is super important, right? We don't need to mess up this sub over here to kind of to make sure that our bass sounds heavy and aggressive. So let's solo the bass a little bit and let's look for some problem areas in our frequency over here. Right, there's a lot of exaggerated low end, which is good, but we just need to clean it up a little bit so that when we hit our master bus, it's more focused, yeah? What we could do also is we could take out a little bit of the 60 hertz, where we kind of have our kick drum, just a tad, right? Not too much. And because we're putting this EQ on both our high end and low end, on our two tracks, our two separate tracks actually, with sort of different processing, it'll help sort of glue them together just a little bit. What also we kind of need to look for is, again, kind of those problem areas, right? Right, there's a bit of a low hum in there. We don't need to take out too much because it'll mess up our bass. It won't sound as heavy and fat. Yeah, you kind of hear that whistling. We take that out as well. Yeah, and I'm using this sort of stock EQ plugin instead of some of the other plugins like the Slate stuff, because we need to be sure that, like, we need to be very surgical, right? And this is a very transparent EQ. Okay, and this... This will turn off, right? And here's before and after, right? So here's before. And after, it feels like a lot more focused and sort of scooped out. Let's hear it with the rest of the instruments, and we'll turn this EQ on halfway here. It's kind of hard to hear with all the stuff that's going on. Let's just leave the guitars, bass, and drums. So let's do this again. We'll turn it off. It feels like the bass is a bit more present, because here's the weird thing. When you take out frequencies, it kind of accentuates automatically all the other stuff that's left in. So when you clean stuff up, it sort of boosts the good parts of the sound in a way. Not the most technical person here, but here's another thing that we could do. We could turn on Virtual Mix Rack, and let's hope it doesn't mess up and crash. There you are. Right? And again, we kind of need to smooth this over. If you look at the, well, maybe on the mixer, it'd be a lot easier to see. Like, if you look at the meter down here, is my face covering it? It is not, but it's very close to being that way. If you look at the meter over here, you kind of see that the volume sort of goes pretty wild, right? In terms of like, it goes up, it goes down. There's a bit of variance in dynamics, which we kind of like, but for our bass track, we kind of don't like, because we want it to be pretty static. We want it to mesh with the guitars and the kick and the snare and the rest of the drums, and we want it to be a solid bass, so that when we bring in the dynamics of the song itself, right, we have quieter parts, we have ambient parts, we have synths, we have a lot of that good stuff. That should be the icing on the cake, but you need a good layering at its base to kind of hold it. Look at me coming up with metaphors and being all wise and crap. Okay. So in order to do that, and again, it's very good. It's not recommended by the top mixers to kind of do this in solo for instruments, but I start out in solo and then check my mix with the rest of the instruments. I start out in solo, especially for this sort of fine stuff, because I want to be sure that I don't mess up the tone of the bass, right? So first things first. I feel like we could probably get away with a bit more top end. But this is too messy, right? This EQ is a bit too messy. And I feel like we could scoop the mids and the low mids a little bit more. Let's see where... Yeah, you see how honky that is? Okay, and a little bit at the 1.2K, just a tad, right? We're not doing too much. But I really like this EQ for sort of popping up. These are sort of, I'm gonna go with a bit wider Qs on these ones, and I'm just gonna take out like 0. Look, you see, I'm doing very, very little actually. And although that sort of high-end information is very, very nasty, right? It kind of helps the bass to stand out over the guitars. Take a listen to this. We're going to turn this off and on again to kind of see the difference, right? It's not giving the intended effect, but trust me on this one. It's because the high end of the bass is not smooth enough, right? And I'm thinking we're gonna do it in 2 stages. First of all, I'm gonna put in a general sort of compressor here on the I'm gonna start from a preset because I still can't remember if it's okay. So this is slow attack, this is fast release, right? Okay, so hold on. Let me go take you to default. Okay, so slow attack, fast release, because we don't want to take out the attack of the bass, right? And we're going to sort of touch this compressor a little bit, just a tad. Then we're gonna hit the makeup gain over here on the output. So for the input, you control the volume going into the compressor, and the output, the volume going out of it. Right? And this basically, see, it's kind of flat and uninteresting, the bass, but when I activate this, it kind of focuses it because it brings both the low end and the high end together and processes them together, right? Another thing that we can kind of do is we kind of have to smooth out the highs and the mid channel, right? If I remember correctly, unfortunately, okay, so I have a frequency over here. Before we hit that, what we could do is we could pop in another virtual mix rack and just use a compressor on it. And I'm really, really partial to this modern compressor for bass. And let's see how that sort of works out for us. Right, let's just hear the high end of this bass, right? You see? It feels like very backed up. It's not in front, in your face, yeah? Although, frankly, like 10 dBs of compression might be too much. To make it even smoother, what we could do is we could plop in some tape machines that we're using actually on our guitars as well, so it'll help to kind of blend the two together a bit more, because we're using kind of the same processing. It's not on both the tracks at the same time, but it is on separate tracks at the same time, so it should help to sort of blend those together. Okay, And we'll copy this processing over to the mid track, to the mid channel as well. And you remember that the mid channel is sort of a grid track, right, that we kind of use for this part over here. You know what? What if we bring a little bit of that high end into this grid track as well? Yeah, it feels like it has a lot more, like the bass has a lot more bite to it. And yeah, so let's just hear the bass and the drums a little bit. Yeah, it sounds pretty beefy, like I gotta say. Now, as a result of that, if you look over here at the bass, it should be a lot more static, yeah, in terms of volume. Yeah, it still has dynamics, it still has attack, right? Because we don't want to take that out of the bass, because the bass... Hey, Super Nab! Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. We're just doing a little bit of tweaking right now. We're going to go into the master bus to kind of tweak that up as well, to kind of make it sound heavier, louder, and then we're going to jump into making some little minor tweaks, and then we're going to jump into... Bye, Avicii! Oh my god! Alec Mayer! Oh, holy crap! Welcome! Thank you so much for joining. Cheers, mate. Matt, props. And welcome everybody. This is awesome. We're trying to write a Doom song over here. We're doing a little bit of tweaking right now, so bear with me, but we'll get into the... I'm going to play the song for you in about 5 minutes. I'm going to replay it for all of you, just so that you see where we're at so far. And then we're going to actually keep working on it and sort of expand it, right? And Alan Pearl following. Thank you so much for the follow. Yes. Hit play, goddamn. Okay, fine. Let's just listen to it one more time. I guess the kind folks on YouTube haven't heard it fully in a while, so let's do this. Log Vita is now following. Thank you so much for following. Welcome, Delta Hawks. Okay, let's do this. Just Jiro, heyo. Okay, fine. Let's just play it. You guys can just hear where we're at. I hope you guys like it. I'm really nervous right now, so let's give it a listen. I'll shush my mic, right, so I can't talk over it. Oh my god, the love, guys. Sefo99 has followed. Thank you so much for the follow. You lovely, lovely people. Do you like it? Like, what do you think? I'm gonna sort of move quickly through the mixing stuff, and then we'll get to composing. So I want to work on this part over here that needs a lot of work, right? Right, but I need to kind of set up the mix a little bit to make it hit harder, to make it hit louder, right? And we can cover a bit of the topics that we cover through mixing. Thank you so much, Steph199. Thank you. Hope my neighbors like heavy riffs. Super nab. And thank you, Radiant Seeker, as well. Cheers, you lovely, lovely people. I hope you're having an awesome Monday. And again, welcome. Right, so one more thing that we kind of need to do is I need to sort of tweak these. There's a synth, right, that sort of prepares the C riff, right? It is the one with the kooky sort of automation happening over here. And this one has a lot of annoying sort of high, really, really high-end noises, right? That kind of sound too out of place when played with all the other things, right? It's Monday? It's Monday Fun Day. Right, and this thing has a lot of processing happening on it, right? And if I'd only hit repeat on this. Yeah, you hear that? That's nasty. That needs to sort of chill a little bit. That too. There's also some other sort of high distorted information. Actually, there's a lot of distorted information. Are guitars VST or recorded? They're recorded, Alex Wave 69. Nice. They're recorded. They're quad-tracked, right? So there's 4 of them. They're all different takes, and they're edited to all shit. That's why maybe they kind of sound like VST. Man, you want Supernab? I make you want to spend on a 7-string guitar. Man, get it? Like I can't even without my 7-string. I can play anything on it. Well, almost anything. I drop tuned it to drop F right now, so there's not a lot I can do with it right now except play. Just asking. Oh, okay, no worries, Alex Wave. No worries. But yeah, the recorded, the bass as well. Well, the bass is kind of interesting because it's the high end, so it's a combination of the DI. Once again, edited to all crap. And it's a combination. For the high end, I'm using an actual recorded take, and for the low end information, I'm using a sub. I don't know if that's coming through, but basically, it's Alex Wave 69. Nice, thank you. I'm using a VST for the low end, yeah, to kind of make sure that the tuning is on point and our fundamental low information is just perfect. You have your Ibanez in B standard. That's as low as it'll go. Good enough for At the Gates. Oh, yes. Oh, At the Gates. Gosh, darn it. Such an awesome band. Anyway, so I cleaned that up. Now, let's head on over to the drums. Let's make sure our drums are on point. They're very loud. They're very loud, I have to say. Let's just go for a bit with like an extended part of drums, and let's sort of make sure that our things are sitting pretty. David Hobbs GTR, thank you so much for following. You lovely people. Oh my god, I'm gonna blush. Possibly I'm gonna cry a little bit, but I promised myself I wouldn't cry on stream. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the support. This is super awesome. So, drums. We're gonna do some processing on the drum bus because we need to sort of process all the drums together to make them sound like they're a bit more together, right? And I'm just gonna do just some minor tweaking. This will all add up in the mastering, right? That we're gonna do right now and super duper quick. because when you master something, like when you turn it super duper loud, all of the little nitpicks and little issues with the song and with the arrangement and with the mixing, they're right in your face, right? So for the drums, I need to take out the sort of very, very extremely low end information, right? Because this is just gonna hit our master bus compressor and it's just gonna mess up everything, right? Maybe not gonna go that drastic, but maybe something along this. If you take out too much of this information, the weird thing that happens is that your drums start losing a lot of their heaviness and punch and body, right? And again, since we're cutting this information over here, it's making this information over here, which is our kick, sound much louder and punchier, right? Which is super cool, for me at least. Another thing that I kind of want to do is there's a bit of a mucky muck happening at around, I think, 300 hertz, usually on drums. Yeah, you hear it's that sort of air that's coming from the room mics and it sounds very basketball-y. Wait, Cepho99, what DAW am I using? I'm using Cubase. And this is a stock EQ in Cubase. Like, what? And it's amazing. You can do mid-side EQ. It's very transparent. It doesn't mess up anything. Since I discovered it, like I don't want the FAB filter stuff. Well, I do want the FAB filter stuff, but I don't need the FAB filter stuff. But I do need the FAB filter stuff. But you know what I'm saying. Anyway. So we're just going to take out a little bit, just maybe 3 dBs is a bit too much, but just like 2 dBs of that sort of honk in there. Yeah, there's a lot of, there's a lot of harshness happening up there, right? Because of the aggressive sort of cymbals and stuff like that. There's that sibilance happening up there. We kind of need to tame a little bit. Right? But be very careful because up here, the higher you go in the spectrum, the more impact your changes are having, right? So like 2 dBs up here means like, I don't know, 5 or 6 dBs down here, like a lot, right? So be very, very careful when you're sort of taking out frequencies up there to not completely neuter your sound, right? Not sort of mess it up. I don't need you, and I'm trying to be more diligent on CPU to kind of turn off the bands that we're not really using, right? So here's the before and after, right? So here's the before. And after, it sounds a little bit more together, but it also sounds not as bright, which in context will be okay, actually. Because mixed with the bass and the guitars is gonna leave a bit more room for that stuff, as well as the more high-end information like the ambient pads and the synths and all of that. Right? It feels like they're punchier, they're not as super duper bright. It doesn't sound like you're actually in the rehearsal room in there. It sounds more like studio drums. But don't worry about it because we're going to boost the brightness of our song in our mastering. So just a sec, we're going to get to that in a minute. Another thing that we can do is drum bus compression, right? But be very, very careful when you do this because it's going to mess up your drums. Right? We want to keep that punch in our drums. We don't want to mess with it too much. So here's what we're going to do. In order to kind of have, but we need that sort of drum bus compression because we need all the little elements, and we do have a lot of elements. Since you guys are new here, I'm going to show you exactly how many stuff I have happening on my drums. So I've got the kick, which is a sum I think there's 2 mics on it. I'm using a snare, which bus, which is again a sum of the snare top mic, the snare bottom mic, the snare reverb. It's being sent right into the snare sum bus and right into our drum bus, right? Because I'm using the snare reverb as a part of the snare sound. And also I like reverbs, possibly too much. It's very possible that I like it a bit too much, but we've got our toms that we haven't mixed yet because I hate mixing toms. We'll mix them later when I actually put toms in this song. I'm still hoping I get away with actually not putting toms in this song. I hate toms. Okay, we've got overheads There are sort of the overhead mics as well as the hi-hat on the right. And I've got the room, which is a sum of a mono mic placed in the room, an up-close room mic, and a far-away room mic, right? And all of this is going into our drum bus, right? And in here, here's what we're going to do. We're going to use the distressor, which is just the, from Slate over here, which is just the most amazing, compressor for drums. Sorry for the brain fart there. So we're gonna set it just because I can't, like, all of these Slate plugins have different settings for fast and slow attack. And just so that we move faster here, I'm gonna go with the drum bus over here. I'm gonna use the attack and release settings over here, but I'm just gonna jiggle the input and the output over here so that we're not hitting it too hard, right? I still want that those dynamics in my drums, but I want it to sit better in my mix, right? Yeah, this is Distressor Gang represent. You can see that this is clearly too much. This was designed for having much less signal thrown in there, right? Which, yeah. Sorry. Oof. Yeah, we're gonna need to turn down the input quite substantially. Right, and let's make sure that we're hitting our gain staging right. So usually I aim for, before I hit my master bus, I'm kind of aiming for all of the instruments to kind of sit at -8, -7, -6, like each of them, right? Somewhere along those lines. Right, and this compressor is doing a lot. I don't know if you hear it, but let me show you. Like, I'll turn it off. And actually, I'll turn all our processing off so you kind of see what it's doing. So it's actually gluing everything together. The drums are kind of breathing along with the kick. It sounds really, really, really aggressive, but together aggressive, right? So I'm going to turn this off, right? These two things that we did now. And I'm going to turn them on after maybe a bar or two, right? And here listen for the difference. You're probably thinking, hey, that's very quiet. That's too quiet, right? And you might be right. But don't let that fool you. It's not about how loud it is, it's about how it sounds. And actually having the drums a bit quieter might be good for the overall mix because I tend to start from my drums and I kind of mix in terms of levels from my drums, and I tend to leave my drums really, really loud in the mix, which is not good for our mastering, right? Okay, but this is too quiet, yeah? Instead of boosting it from the distressor, although it kind of makes it sound very, very aggressive, I think I'm going to boost it from, or you know what? Screw it, let's boost it from the distressor. Let's just make it loud and annoying. This is kind of where we had it, right? It's kind of at that level. It's still a bit too loud, but we'll adjust after we do the mastering. Okay, let's do this. So, mastering, right? Here's how I master. First things first, I'm gonna turn off all of this crap. I don't need it. Well, I will need it, but later. Okay, first of all, we're gonna do a mid-side EQ on the extreme low end. We're gonna do a high pass. For the mid, my high pass is gonna stop at around 30 hertz, right? Just so that I don't have any sort of exaggerated stuff hitting my master bus compressor. For the sides, we're gonna go a bit more. Hold on. So for the mids, I want to leave more. For the sides, I want to like take out a bit more, right, of the low end. Because I want my low end and my head of my song to kind of sit on the middle, not on the sides, right? I'm going to leave it like that for now. No, actually, I'm not doing it right. I'm sorry. I actually don't want a mid-side EQ for this. I just want an EQ because this is just noise. This is just gobbledygook, right? Which we don't want in our song. what we're going to do is that for our low end, around 100 hertz, is we're going to give it a tiny nudge on the mids, on the mid channel, but on the sides, we're going to take out from it, right? This will keep things, and we just need to make sure that we add the same amount, right? So I'm going to add in on the mids 2 dBs, and I'm going to take out 2 dBs from the sides. What this does is that it creates stereo separation. It kind of makes things sound wide, right? And it also cleans up any sort of annoying low-end content on the sides that we don't want sort of happening, because we want our low-end to be focused on the mids, right? On the middle channel. So let's hear what this is doing. Yeah, you kind of hear how that low end kind of focuses and comes right at your face. That's what I want. For the high end, we'll do the same thing, but we'll do it the other way around. So for our mids, we're gonna cut out a bit of yeesh. High shelf is what I need. We're gonna take out a little bit of information, right? I'm just gonna put you at 1. I'm gonna take out 2 dBs, around 2 dBs, and I'm gonna boost 2 dBs on the sides, because this will create, once again, 1308, and make sure that make sure that you're using the same point for these, because otherwise you'll create phasing issues. And just make everything sound unfocused, right? And we do this again to kind of create that stereo separation effect, and also to bring more brightness on the sides. And I want the mids to be super focused with the low end information, right? And also I'm gonna fisher. I know that usually my mixes tend to have a bit of mud down here around the 300 hertz, and I'm gonna turn this off and on, and you'll see what it does. So this is what we had, yeah? What we had? What we have. You hear? It's a bit more stereo, and also it sounds more focused and more clean, right? Which is important, because we're gonna boost the crap out of it. It's not even funny. I'm gonna leave all of this as it is. Right, dither and ceiling settings, you make sure. So this is my mastering limiter, right? I use FGX from Slate. It's just the most amazing mastering limiter, because it keeps the dynamics and the character and the punch of your songs. I love it. Not endorsed, not sponsored. I just love it to bits. I love the Slate stuff to bits. I couldn't do anything without it. Make sure that your output bit resolution, because it's usually defaulted to 16 bits, set it to 24 bits, right? Because we're going to be releasing this digitally. We're not going to be putting it on any CD or any stuff like that. Now that we've cleaned up our frequencies, it's time to hit our master bus compressor, which is usually going to be the red compressor. The FG red is just the best. There's a little preset in here, and I use the preset because it's a good starting point, but I'm going to explain how I use, like, what it does. No! Rock drive. Here we go. Okay, so first of all, our threshold, like, we should be seeing around 2 or 3 dBs of compression. Let's see. Right? That is a lot. Like, we're seeing the amount of compression that we kind of want to see. So this threshold, we're not going to adjust it. The ratio is set pretty okay, right? It's not like super aggressive, not compressing a lot of it to make it fit. This drive I'm going to turn off for now. Let's hear that again, because this has kind of messed us up, right? Actually, the makeup gain is what messed us up. Let's fix that. Right? This drive adds saturation, and we would like some of that to kind of glue things together. I would like some makeup gain to go to just a little bit to kind of push it along. Our attack is set pretty fast. I think I'm gonna back that down a little bit. Let's see how that feels. But here's the trick to this compressor. It has a high-pass filter, which means that it won't react to low-end content wherever you set it. So I want this compressor to not react to my kick drum, which it currently is. I want it to react to my snare, really, right? So let's see how it looks like this. Yeah, you see it pumping a little bit more on the snare. And you know what? I'm going to go with a pretty fast release because this is an aggressive song. Like, I feel that I can't just rely on the auto release to know that. I need to tell it, hey, this is an aggressive song. I need things to hit hard, and I need you to back off on that compression to give it a little bit of that pumping that you kind of hear on the Doom Eternal Mick Gordon mix tracks, right? Okay, there's a little problem. I don't know if you hear it, but I think my kick drum is much louder than my snare. Like, substantially slow. So, and it's kind of messing up our whole sort of mastering situation. You know what it is, actually? I think our kick has too much low end. That can be a thing. That can totally be a thing. To fix that, we're actually going to go in over here to our kick and sort of take out a little bit of this low end because yeesh. Yeah? Let's see if that fixes it. We're good. I think we're good. There's also another sort of problem with the guitars. If we look, just put OTT on it. Yeah, always just put OTT on it. That'll fix everything. Actually, we need to do some wackiness with OTT as well. What are we doing? I need to sort of clean up some other frequencies from the guitars. I don't know. Okay. I think there's a little bit too much sub present in our guitars, and be very careful when you do this, because taking out that sub information will mess up the heaviness of your guitars, right? Let me show you this in just a second. But at the same time, dude, you don't need that much sub in your guitars. Like, you've got a kick drum, you've got bass, it'll fill out that space. Hey, I made a little rhyme. Do I use Soothe? No, Alex Wave, but I do want it so bad. Like, I want to use it on my overheads like there's no tomorrow, to be honest. That, and I also want Track Spacer. I would love to have Track Spacer. I'm still saving up, but I will get some more plugins. Right, so when you do this, be very careful. And I'm going to show you how much you can mess up your guitars. I'm going to solo the guitars. Which, like, a lot of people do this. Maybe not as exaggerated as this, but a lot of people do this where they take out, and I did this a lot. You take out all the low end from the guitar, you say, hey, I got a bass, screw it. Here's how this sounds in the mix. Yeah, that's nasty. Now listen again, I'll turn this off. Yeah? Granted, there's a lot of low-end information on our guitars, but we kind of need it to sort of mesh with the bass. So we're going to take out quite a bit, but not too much. Let's see how that fixes it. Yeah, you see how the low end in the whole song has now just cleaned up substantially, right? Right, so we've done that. Now our sort of mastering over here should not be reacting that much to that much. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now, the next step that I usually do is virtual mix rack. Okay, now we need to glue all of the instruments together, right? To make everything sound just mwah. There's a couple of steps that I take usually all the time. So first of all, I start with the trimmer, make sure that my input level is not too exaggerated, right? Then I go into console emulation, so that's just gonna be the VCC mix bus. And what I tend to use is the Brit 4K, and this is the SSL-G console, right? I usually leave a bit of drive, I keep the noise reduction, and basically what we're looking for is to kind of hit the sweet spot over here. If we hit it here, it's not distorting too much. Hey, Sir Andre, welcome! Thank you so much for joining. Haven't heard from you in a while. But how you doing? I hope you're having an awesome Monday and an awesome week and I hope you had an awesome weekend and you're gonna have a more awesome weekend coming up. So we kind of need to hit this here. If it's too much, it'll distort. Hey up, Chief Monkey! I listened to that thing on the Discord, Chief Monkey, by the way. Yeah, it could work. If I weren't doing like a standard straight up Doom song, I'd totally do that thing. Like I put in some sort of flamenco guitar or something. I think that'd be pretty nuts. Anyway, if we hit this sweet spot here, it's gonna give us the saturation from an actual sort of SSL console, but not distort too much, right? So let's see that in action. Yeah, you see it's way too much. So I use this trimmer to take out just maybe 1 dB, and then I don't link up this input and output, and then I just trim the input into this plugin. But what is it doing, you're probably asking. Listen here. Listen here. But it's quieter. Yes, it is. I'll actually stop my master bus. I'm kind of worried about doing that. I'll leave my limiter on because we're going to be mixing into it, right? So I'm going to leave it on. SSL magic. Yes. It's making things sound a bit more together, and it's giving a bit keeping busy. Stopping by for a quick hello. Thank you so much for stopping by. What was I saying? Right. It's giving a bit of that warmth, right? It doesn't sound that digital anymore, which is what we want. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to pop in, and I'm going to show you the magic plugin. Everybody wants to have a magic plugin. Everybody wants to look for a magic plugin. I'm going to show you my magic plugin. And I don't think I'm the only one. It's this Revival plugin, right? So I'm going to boost the volume a tad more going into our limiter. And I'm going to leave the trimmer over here. No, actually, I'm going to leave this as it is. And then I'm going to use this trimmer at the end to kind of make sure that things are at an appropriate level. What this Revival plugin does, I have no idea. It's awesome, though. It makes everything brighter. It makes everything fatter. That's basically it. What more could you want? Oh, yes. It is, Sir Andre. It is. So let's make this thick. Okay, and I'll turn it off and you'll see what this little chain is doing, right, in terms of difference. We might want to boost this level a little bit just so that you kind of hear it at the same level. So, without, with. Without. I'll show you my magic plugin. Guess you should resubscribe to Slate. Yes, SuperNab, you should totally do that. It's super cheap, and it's super cheap for SuperNab. And it's awesome. Yeah, I can't live without my Slate stuff. And it makes me like the awesome thing is that it's super cheap. And again, I'm not sponsored. I just love this thing. It's super cheap and it allows me to sound more expensive than I am. Yes, I'll show you my magic plugin, baby. You can play with my knobs. I apologize. Anyway, another thing that we kind of need to do before we hit our sort of we have two more steps, and then we'll get into actually sort of composing the rest of this thing. Usually what I do is I plop a multi-band compressor with a very, very low ratio on it to make sure that if I go pretty nuts with something, that I don't mess up my master, right? That when it goes to the limiter, everything is nice and smooth as much as possible. You don't want it to be a cheese block, right? You don't want it to be a block of cheese. But you don't want it to be too dynamic because we need to turn it pretty loud and we need to make it sound pretty aggressive, right? Yes! Okay, so here's what you do. Here's what I do. So I go for a pretty fast release, something like 100 milliseconds, and I go for a slower attack, something like, that's too much, maybe 50, right? I put it at 1.5 and I'm just looking to kind of touch this a little bit. And I go through each sort of frequency and solo it out and look to see what we're doing over there. Like to make sure, especially on my low end, to make sure that I have the appropriate information in there. If I don't, it's probably a problem of, it's probably an arrangement problem, right? I have some really, really low stuff that shouldn't really be there. No job. I do not want to become famous. Jeebus. Can I... The banhammer hath been swung. Fixed. Okay. I don't want to become famous. I'm a musician. I don't care about fame. Anyway. Yeah, so let's check this out. So, if you have nice speakers or... yeah, it's probably a bot. Yeah, I know. But I just try to make fun of it. Because my mind is dumb like that. But... if you have nice speakers or headphones or stuff like that, you'll probably hear the sub information. Let's check it out. Yeah, and I'm just looking to touch it a little bit over here, especially on my low end, yeah? Especially when those big booms come in, you kind of need to control things because otherwise they're going to explode everybody's systems, right? Over here in the sort of mids and low mids. Now, why do we do this? Why? But Dan, why don't you just mix your stuff better? Because, shut up. But yeah, this is a pretty lazy approach of doing it, right? This is a pretty lazy way of doing it. But I'm not trying to change the sound too much. 2 dB, 1 dB here, just to kind of smooth things along, right? Before we hit our limiter. Right? This is pretty harsh information over here. Yeah, it's just catching some stuff, right? Just the low end reminds you of Connor's scene from Detroit Become Human. Dude, I have to play that game! I keep waiting for it to kind of... I don't know if it was released for PC yet, but if it was much more expensive than it should be, I think, at this point in time after so many years. I mean, don't get me wrong. If that money goes to the developers, awesome. All money should go to the developers. But if not... I kind of don't feel okay about paying almost full price for a game that was released around 3 years ago, I would say. Something like that, maybe. But I kind of I want to play it on PC with the max settings to kind of see everything, how awesome it is. I understand the graphics are pretty crazy in that game from what I've seen. So let me show you what this does to our song, right? I'm going to turn off this multi-band compressor. I'm going to turn it on after 2 bars. That's a pretty big difference if you ask me, no? I left that solo on. Let's try that again, shall we? Yeah? You hear that big-ass difference in volume? You know why that is? It's because we've softened things out before it hits our limiter, so our limiter can boost our volume. Hey, Tensor Freitas! Welcome! Welcome, welcome. We're writing a Doom song. Doom. I hope you... I think you joined us before, so welcome. Welcome once again. 23 pounds, 24 pounds. I think that's what in dollars or euros. 30? 30 euros? 30 euros makes sense, though. I could go for that. But I'm still... Iridian Seeker and I are actually sort of finishing Borderlands 3. The new DLC came out. We're getting to it, and we want to sort of 100% the game and finally be done with it. And also, I'm playing like Crusader Kings. We'll be playing tomorrow night, this kind of same time that we started. We'll be playing some Crusader Kings as well. Right, so what I was saying was that I've been seeing your streams on YouTube. It's a cool tune. Thank you so much. Yes, I think you commented on YouTube, didn't you? Am I remembering you right? I'll check in just a second, but I think I am. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Yes, see, my memory is not that shot. Anyway, let me just finish this up. So what was I saying? So because we've smoothed things out before it hits our limiter, right, our last step in our mastering chain, it can actually, it's not doing a lot of heavy lifting right now, so it can actually push the volume to be much louder and more aggressive, right? Right, but we have some distortion, right? We're boosting that volume right very much. We can actually, and when our subs come in, like when our sub drops come in, it's chaos, right? We can get around that by actually cleaning up like cleaning up pretty aggressively, some more sort of very, very low, like very low information that we don't really need, right? So if we take that out, let's hear how that drop comes in now. And now it's clean. Let me show you on the frequency spectrum how much of this gunk in here comes in from those subs. Yeah, you see? And you don't need it. Like, you can have the aggressive impact of a sub without having that sort of very, very inaudible almost information in there. The only reason you're hearing it is because it distorts the master bus. Yes, I do, Alex Wave. Yes, I do. And I can actually pop a link down there to my YupTubs. I think that would be super useful. Yes, I upload everything to YouTube. I need to do... Hey, Cepho99 in the house. Thank you for the subscription on YouTube, by the way. I need to... I want to do some more extra content just for YouTube, and I want to do some sort of highlight reels as well. Let me just pop this link in the chat. Just a second. There you go. And yeah, so check that out. Subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm actually recording for YouTube right now. I should be getting along to finishing this. So just one more minute to kind of explain how I'm using this mastering limiter, right? So first of all, I kind of like to hit this compressor, although we already have a master bus compressor. I just want to use this as a safeguard, right? Again, if I go very, very nuts with volumes, and you know we like to do that here, I use this to kind of catch another sort of half a dB, just in case, right? And it's set to very slow attack, very fast release, right? Again, just sort of making it pump just a little bit. Look, you don't have to make your masters pump. Don't do that. It sounds like crap. I did that for so many years, and it's terrible, and I hate my stuff. But if you have it pumped just a little bit, just a tad, to where you don't perceive it consciously, it makes your sound in your song just so freaking heavy. It's unbearable, right? And I kind of aim for around -9 RMS-ish on the super duper loud parts. -8, -7 if you really want to get that Death Magnetic Metallica vibe going. The other thing is that for my transients, I usually leave it right down the middle, 12 o'clock, just so that there are enough transients left to where you can feel the impact, but not too much, right? Not to where it sort of overpowers the mastering limiter. I usually boost to start out with 8 dBs of gain, and dynamic perception I leave at 5, again, just so that we have that variance in dynamics, especially when we go to the quieter parts. Hear this. Or here. Yeah. And usually you could push the master gain a lot more. I think I need to do a lot more cleanup. But there's another thing that we want to do before we do that. I'm going to move my the last step before my limiter is usually a stereo enhancer. But be very, very careful with this. Oh my god, like I ruined so many mixes by using this too much. Stereo widening, if you want to make your things sound wide, first of all, quad-track guitars help a lot. Second, mid-side EQ helps a lot. Since we already did a lot of that heavy lifting, we just need just 2%. Just 2%. It'll make the world of difference. The world of difference. Listen to this. Yeah, I think that's exactly what you kind of need. And especially listen to how wide it now sounds in this sort of part where we have the C riff along with orchestras and ambient guitars and all of that good stuff. Right, there's still a lot of ways to go, but I feel like this work that we did over here on the master bus just helps a lot, right? If I were to turn all of these things off and sort of activate them while let's listen to this sort of last bit over here, the sound with all the things, and I'll turn all of these on one by one, and you kind of hear the difference. So the first thing is cleanup and mid-side EQ. Then we've got our master bus compressor. Then we've got our virtual mix rack with the magic plugin in here. And thank you so much, Destroy All Fritz, for the host. Welcome. And Platfus, thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you. I'm glad that it sounds pretty cool. Then we've got our sort of smoothing multi-band compressor in here. Just some safeguard extra cleanup work. Then we've got our sort of widening, just 2%. That's all it's adding, but it makes a whole world of difference, right? So I'll turn them on as we go, one bar at a time, yeah? Right, so, yeah. Thank you so much for watching on YouTube, by the way.